Now I need a second.
Dennis McLaughlin, second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's open. Okay. And by the way, thanks for doing that quickly because, the faster we make these motions, the better things are. All right, well, there is you've been given an annual report, and I just want to thank Jessica Atkins, our administrative assistant. Lynette Grubbs is our business manager. And Lynette, would you just raise your hand? You're sitting right back there. So Lynette's our business manager, and then Cheryl McNeil is our treasurer. And they have done a wonderful job in compiling this 2022 annual report. Now, let me just say, in the way of old business, to review 2022, there are all sorts of things that we could talk about, but let's just say that there is a relational side of a church and there's a business side of a church. And sometimes those can be in tension if one gets out of balance, but what we know is that from a relational side of church and a business side of church, there needs to be that good balance because each is dependent on the others. So my intent is absolutely not to read through all of this. You don't want me to do that. You'd like to be out of here sometime before you have to go to work tomorrow. So I'll leave that to you, but I will highlight some things. And the things that I'll begin with is that there have been children, students, and adults who've accepted Christ in 2022. And there have been multiple times where the gospel has been clearly presented. In 2022, we baptized 40 people, which I'm thrilled about, absolutely. Our average attendance was up 12%. On our online presence, we've had over 8,400 unique views online, and our church has shown its heart numerous times in serving one another. I'm so grateful for the high school ministry that came in and just even this afternoon served pizza. We've shown our heart in serving our church, serving our community through 30 Ways in 30 Days, meals that have been taken over on a meal train, relief funds, if you'll remember last spring. And I believe that we really have taken to heart Mark 10:45 that says, "For even the Son of Man came not to be ministered, but to minister and give his life a ransom for many." We have practically showed the love of God to our community and around the world, and I think about the Boise Rescue Mission and how that is ongoing, so thank you. Our global outreach is found in page 21 through 27 of this report, and it's worthy to note that over $269,000 was given toward missions. It's 26% of everything that our church gives to the Lord here at Bridgepoint. That's awesome. This is all spilled into 2023, where just in our last missions conference in January, we added a new missionary to support on an ongoing basis to Thailand, and we've also funded 2 church plants in Thailand as well, so thank you. I'm going to highlight at least one ministry. I could highlight many. I'm going to highlight the children's ministry. You could see some of those details in page 10 through 11. But in children's ministry, there's been 2 semesters of Wired, where families gather to have dinner, a Bible lesson, and an activity, and 29 different families have been a part of that. In the summer, there were pool parties and camp with 33 campers, 20 adults, students accepted Christ, and 5 children, elementary school kids, were baptized after camp. In children's ministry, there was a father-daughter ball where 75 people came and made memories with their family. And there were moms who were able to exact a certain amount of revenge toward their sons because 41 people participated in Nerf wars. So we want to make sure that that happens as well. We remodeled the nursery, the baby rock rooms, and we had 3 families that dedicated children to the Lord. Now, that's just some of what has happened here, and there's so much more detail in this annual report. When it comes to our finances, you would find those details in page 31 through 39, or if you just got the summary page, here it is. And if you would look at it, I'll just make this note so that we have a clear understanding. What you find in these 3 columns is that the first column is the 2022 budget. The middle column is the 2022 actual expenditures. And then the olive green column on the far right is the 2023 budget. We'll be voting on that today. So, we have financial reports that are reviewed weekly, monthly with our board, and bi-yearly, every other year, we have an independent financial review by Jack Beers, and that was held on August 8th through the 10th, which we came through with flying colors. We have no debt. Everything that we talked about in this business meeting last year, everything is paid off. We'll talk about it a little bit more in a second. So I'd like for you to now just review the income and spending in the executive summary, which would be found in the annual report on page 32, but it's also found on, this page. How can I get to it? It's there somewhere. Oh, yeah. It's what would be the first page of the budget. Looks like this. The top half is the executive summary. 2022 proved to be an unusual year. We were able to pay off the balance that we owed ourselves to the building fund. You might remember that when we purchased this yellow house, we borrowed $100,000 from our building fund in 2014, and we have been paying ourselves back, and we were able to pay that $100,000 off. We were also able to pay off the mortgage on 2530 Broadway. This yellow house is now debt-free. We have no mortgage. And so if you look at this executive summary, I would draw your attention to about 2/3 of the way down where it says monthly total. And under the 2022, the center column, it shows $200,090. Now, that is shown as a deficit, but I want you to know we did not spend $200,000 more than we had. We didn't take out any debt. We haven't done any of that. But if you were to add the 89,000, where it says net income, 3 columns above, the 89,000 plus the total mortgage payment of $112,000, that's where that $200,090 comes from. So we paid off the money that we owed ourselves. We paid off the 2530 Broadway house. And, however, we did have to dip into our reserves, particularly in the month of September. And because these are reserves, they don't show up as income. In other words, if we have money in our savings account from 2022, or in this case, 2021, coming into this year, that money is there, but it doesn't show up as income because we didn't receive it after midnight, January 1st. So this is where we, for example, the approximately $12,000 that we used to remodel the nursery here, we had that money in a set aside in reserves, ready to go, but it's not income in 2022. It was income that we had saved in 2021. And that's where this deficit, on paper, shows up. So we completed different projects, nursery model. We had Ricky came, and there was expenses in regards to moving him, those type of things. And so that's where it is. What you see here is this executive summary. And if you were just to look down through it, you'll see from a budget standpoint and an actual expenditure standpoint that for most columns, we were under budget. Okay? So, the way the finances work here at Bridgepoint is that we as a church vote on the budget. Once things have been voted on, then if there is the money, that's always the big deal, right? How many of you know from your own experience that just because if you decide you've got a household budget of $1 million, you don't have $1 million in the bank to spend, right? Or at least most of us don't. So budgets are just a tool to use. It doesn't create finances. So it's spent if it is there. But if there's something that perhaps is not in the budget, then I, as pastor, I have the authority to make a purchase of up to $5,000 just on my signature. And our board has the ability to spend up to $20,000 per vote. Anything over $20,000 that's not included in the budget is brought before the church in a special business meeting, and the church then votes on it. So that's a lot to kind of put out all at once. But my question to you then is, do you have any questions under old business in regard to the 2022 budget and the 2022 expenditures? We'll talk about 2023 in a moment. Questions? You can see the details of all of the categories and what was spent in detail throughout this document, whether it's this one or in the annual report. The documents are the same. Questions? Anybody? How many of you are asleep right now because you ate too much pizza? Okay. Okay. I'll give you one last shot at it. Any questions? Okay, so since there are no questions in regard to the 2022 financial report, I need a motion to accept the 2022 financial report.
Jason Bedke, I move we accept the 2022 budget report.
Thank you. I need a second.
Steve Radich, I second it.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you for doing that. Let me bring it under old business and update on the Amity and Linder property sale. So you know that we sold the 20 acres of property out at Amity and Linder. We received 50% of the balance that was owed on January 3rd of 2022. It was a check for $967,080.14. That check took out all the expenditures, the real estate costs, all of the costs which came with selling the property. What that means is that in 2022, the remaining balance of what we are owed, $1,277,250, earned 6% interest throughout the entire year, for a total of $73,617.69 of interest. Not bad, right? So that's what was earned, and that went into the building fund. Now, in October, November of 2022, Hubble approached us to extend the promissory note. They wanted another year. Well, I'm going to spare you the hours and hours and hours of conversation that went into that. But we agreed to the following. One, the interest rate in this extension of the promissory note would now be 8% rather than 6%. We also agreed that we want the 1/3 of the principal that is owed to us paid in 3 increments. We don't want to wait until December 31st, 2023. And so on January 1st, 1/3. March 31st, 1/3. June 30th, done. All the money that Hubbell owes us will be paid by June 30th at an interest rate of 8%. Now, Hubbell has been like clockwork, and we received $472,495 right after January 31st. We also received $8,046 worth of interest. And so the balance in the building fund as of February 22nd is $1,674,420. That's the update. We're going to get it completely paid off by June 30th. So, in regard to that, Amity and Linder, any questions, any comments, anything that I could answer? It is not, because that is a 2022 budget, and this is also the building fund, not the general fund. Pardon? I'm sorry. Can we get a? The building fund's not listed. No. The building fund is not listed. Yeah. Okay. So let's do a microphone so that everybody can hear. Perfect. Thank you.
I'm just curious what they were going to do with that 20 acres. Do you know what's proposed for that?
I'm not sure, but they are not allowed to, by contract, until they pay us off completely. They cannot do anything with it. They can't sublet it, they can't lease it, they can't build, they can't turn a shovel of dirt over until we are completely paid off. And then after that, whatever they want to do with it, it's their property, right? Okay, all right, other questions?
I don't know if this will help, but one of the reasons they asked for the extension is that they could not get zoning through Meridian to do what they needed to do there. And so, we all thought that was gonna go straight ahead, and then Meridian kind of jerked the rug out from them a little bit. So that's kind of why, we tried to be good neighbors about this and not be real hardcore about it and all that.
Yeah, so frankly, we were unwilling to extend an entire year without additional principal payment because we didn't want to have that exposure. We all are seeing what's happening in the economy and the new construction, and we just felt like, let's reduce our debt exposure, what they owe us, and that's how we played it out. Okay?
Quick question, maybe just to follow up on what was stated over there. I think what you're saying is like the reserves, the building fund, the missions, extra and stuff like that, that's not included.
That's correct.
That's not listed here. So
That's correct.
If people wanted that information, they could contact you or?
Yes. I mean, frankly, on the buildings fund side of things, we haven't had any expenditures, really. Now, what you can find is you can find in the annual report, you can find what our missions, who we support, how much, all of that in the missions report. Okay? Okay, good questions. Anybody else? Okay, well, that being said, is there any other old business to discuss? Okay, since there is no other old business to discuss, let's go to new business. And the first item of new business will be the 2023 budget. That is found in the annual report on page 32 through 38. So, 2023 budget, it's the far right-hand column. Look, I think we all would recognize that a budget is a best guess when it comes to income and when it comes to expenditures. And typically what we will do is we'll look at the previous year budget and the previous year expenditures and kind of see where we were at and then forecast where we will be in 2023. Now, we might be aware of an upcoming project or something along those lines, and that might increase, or perhaps there was a project that was completed, and that might decrease the overall budget. So when you look through from a revenue standpoint to, there's several pages here. When you look through this on the 2023 budget, do you have any questions that I could answer? Come on down. Okay.
Okay, so my question is on page 33. I'm just looking, you said that you had the budget from 2022, and 2022 totals is what you actually spent. So I'm looking at, like, under Christmas and Easter and communion, it looks like we spent more than our budget, but then in 2023's budget is even smaller than 2022. So I'm just looking, if we spent more, why are we budgeting less?
Yes, great question. And let me answer in regard to Christmas, those type of things. On Christmas, we spent $2,341 instead of the budget of $1,500. We bought a bunch of new decorations, right? The
very
white
important.
trees, all that stuff. So we don't think that we're going to have to buy those again. So there's that. On Easter, we did a new background for the stage. That was part of it. On communion and baptisms, that's a big T-shirt order. So that's part of it. We want people to have T-shirts when they're baptized. That's part. So now we've got a boatload of T-shirts. We don't think we're going to have to order T-shirts in 2023. It'd be great if we did have to order T-shirts in 2023 because of the number of people that were being baptized. So does that answer your question?
No, that helps, thank you.
Yeah. So what happens on any of these columns, like with worship ministry, the overall worship ministry, is that I sit down with the department heads and we go through all this, and Lynette provides us details of what was spent and where, why did we spend $2,955 for communion and baptism? Oh, I don't know. Why did we? Oh, yeah, T-shirts, that type of thing. So, yes.
So I just noticed this, sorry I didn't bring it up earlier. I just noticed that the middle school, high school budgets were flip-flopped for the 2023.
Yes.
Just noticed that.
Yeah. Well, the reason for that is that there's big picture things that affect smaller things, right? And the big picture is that we're doing camp differently this year for our high school ministry. And we had partnered with some churches with high school ministry that, because of several reasons, we're not going to partner with them again. So high school ministry, they're in the process of working that out. In middle school, okay, so last year at middle school, we just went to a camp that the other churches did, and we just kind of wrote a check for our students that went there. High school camp last year, we ran it. So we had to write all the checks. What did we write? $26,000, $27,000 Quaker Hill, that type of thing. So we wrote all of the checks. 2023, we're running the middle school camp. So we'll have to write all the checks. in the that's middle school. In the high school, we're looking at more of a retreat type of setting, and it won't be the same thing in terms of expenditures that we had in last year. Okay? Great question. Okay? All right, good questions. Who else? Now, just so you know, this budget was reviewed by our board and voted on to present to you. So we spend quite a bit of time looking through not only the budget, but on a monthly board meeting, there's multiple reports that come out that we review. So, is there any other question in regard to the 2023 budget? If there are no other questions, then I need a motion to accept the 2023 budget. Thank you, Bob. How about a second? Thank you, Tom. And now we'll vote. All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Under new business, we this week are having meetings on Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and then Thursday night with Building God's Way. This is an organization that we came across that actually had a seminar here in Boise, of all places, and a bunch of us went. We were impressed by what they have done. And through a long process, we have hired them to come in and do what they call a charrette. And this charrette is this 3-day process where they are going to provide to us some ideas, some rough drafts in regard to what we can do here. Now, in 2022, after years of study, we made the decision that we're going to stay here in our current location. So staying here in our current location means, okay, so what do we do? So Building God's Way through this charrette, these 3 days, here are their deliverables. Here's what we are going to receive. We're going to receive, at the end of all of this process, a site plan. Here we got. Here's our building. Where do we put a new building? We're going to receive a floor plan. So what does it look like? We're going to receive exterior elevation. So if there is a third building, how does it tie in? Or best, a better way to put it is how do we tie in the existing buildings to look like a new building? Please don't walk away from here going, if we put a new building here, we're going to have it to look like what we've got now? No, we're not. Okay, it'll be the other way around. So there is exterior elevations. There's also, what do we do with these old buildings? The education building, this building, do both of these buildings stay? There's a lot of unanswered questions. And then once that's done, there will be a detailed cost estimate that will just at least give us a ballpark idea of what we're talking about. Now, Building God's Way, they do nothing but churches. And over the last 10, 12 years or so, they have built over 1,000 churches nationwide. They know what they're doing. And so if you would like just to get an idea, Building God's Way, you can Google that. You can get on their website, and you can see some of the projects that they have done. Now, I'll show you this. You might recognize this, or maybe you don't recognize this. Anybody at all recognize this? Okay. This is the way the building looked when I first got here a long time ago. And this here is where the education building sits. And I got to tell you, that's a long time ago. But I'm thankful for this building because there were people that came into this old building and they heard the gospel and they accepted Christ. But there was also a group of people way back in the day, 1982, 83, 84, that had a vision for what could be. And in all of that process, built what we have today. I'm thankful for that. I am thankful for a building that is just a tool to help meet the needs of the congregation and community. A building is just that. It's a tool. This building had generational impact. This building has had generational impact, and whatever may be done in the future will have generational impact. In all of this process, prayer leads planning. It's not the other way around. So just to give you an idea, this is what we did as a staff and facility team members and board members. This church, Tree City Church, you recognize this? It's out on Eagle Road. This used to be Boise First Nazarene. Okay? This church was built 28 years ago is when this church was built. It was built by Steve Hill that we've had contact with in terms of the potential of being a contractor with us. And so we walked through this building. And what we saw in this building was an awesome multi-use site. Awesome when it came to how they did their lobby, even though 28 years ago, right? We also saw in this building that they are using a auditorium space also as a gymnasium. And they've done a really good job. It doesn't look like a gym. It doesn't smell like a gym. And it functions well as an auditorium and as a gymnasium. So we just wanted to take a look at that. And so a tool, a building is just something that can be used to minister to people. Now, we've talked about that this Thursday night is a town hall meeting. Everybody is invited. I hope you'll come back Thursday night, 6:30. There'll be food. It may be leftover pizza. Or not. Or it could be new pizza. I think it's what it's going to be. But we want you to come back because what we'll be able to do is show you some things. Hey, here's what they've been working on. Here's what we've developed in this process. And we want you to take a look at it, and we want you to have input in it. So, any questions in regard to building God's way, what's going to happen over the next 3 or 4 days? Any questions at all? I think you'll have a lot more questions once you see something, right? Yeah, so we're looking forward to it as well. So, yes, can we get let's get a microphone. Thank you.
Will Building God's Way be here Thursday night to answer questions?
Oh, yeah.
Or to do the presentation? Okay, just asking.
Yep, they will be here. Yep. Okay. So this is a standalone contract for this charrette. It doesn't obligate us into anything further, although they would like to be a part of, an architectural contract, a building contract, all of that. That's a little bit to be determined. We'll see what happens, okay? Other questions, comments? Is there any other new business to discuss? All right, well, if that's the case, then I would like to have a motion to close the 2023 business meeting. Come on. All right, there we go. This is like tradition over the last 3 years, right? Okay. Nothing until closing the business meeting. Yes, Jessica, so. All right, can I have a second?
Jason Bedke, second.
Okay, all in favor of closing the 2023 business meeting, say aye. Any opposed? Well, the last thing to do today is that we want to pray over our new board. I want to publicly thank 2 members of our board who are rotating off the board. I want to publicly thank Todd Blakeman and Alan Prouty. They have done a phenomenal job. We're very thankful for their service. And, they're still here at Bridgepoint. They're just rotating off the board. I'd also like to thank our existing board members. So our existing board, not including those who were elected today, our deacons are Michael Scott, Colin Sower. Our trustees are Greg Hawkins, Tommy Keating, Travis Mock. Our newly elected board members, as deacon, Steve Griebel, Doug Higbee, Tim Steger. Our newly elected trustees are Jason Bedke, Mike Migalski, and Matt Mann. So for those newly elected board members who are able to be here, both Tim and Mike are out of town, could I ask you to come to the front? And if your wife would like to come with you, that is more than welcome for that as well. Could I get you to come on to the front, and let's all stand. As they're coming to the front, I just want us to pray over our newly elected board members and their families. The reality is that when you are a leader, you are also a target. And it's important for us to pray for our pastors, our board members. And so what I would like to do is just to invite you to come up and just say a word of prayer and just pray for them. And we'll do that for a few moments. And then I'm going to ask Adam to close us in prayer as we do that. So if I could get those of you that are here at the front to kind of spread out just a little bit here. Perfect, thank you. So if you feel led to, come on down to the front and let's just pray over them. And if you choose not to come down the front, that's fine, but you can pray for them where you are. Let's take these moments and pray for our new board. Come on down.
we gather to just support and to support these leaders that you have placed in our midst, Lord. And there are amazing things that you have in our future, God. When I think about all the ministry that's happened over the past year, I just know that's the tip of the iceberg about what you want to accomplish. And it takes leadership to accomplish that, Lord. And so for these men and women who will serve as in these roles in our church, God, I just ask that you would help us to be able to discern your will, be led by your Spirit, and not any type of idea that we might have or anything. I pray that we would have consensus and unity. I pray, Lord, that we would make every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit with the bond of peace together, Lord, because one of the things that we know from Scripture is that you love when your children are unified, walking in the same direction. So show us the direction to go. Help us to move with one voice and one heart and one mind, and let us be all knit together through our higher calling to follow Jesus. And I pray that would be first and foremost before we talk about any money or anything like that, that you, Jesus, would be the center of every decision we make. I pray that you'd protect these, the leaders of our church, and that you would help us to know how to come alongside and encourage them at the right time, God. And I pray these things in your name. Amen.
Well, I want to thank you for being here at our business meeting. Thank you so much. If you see Jessica Adkins, would you just thank her? She kind of did all the organizational things to this and did a great job, so thank her. And you know what? That's a good business meeting. So you get to go home now. Thank you again for being here. God bless you. Have a great rest of your afternoon. And plan on being back with us on Thursday. I think it's going to be exciting to see what is going to happen here. So come on back Thursday. God bless you. Thank you so much.
I'm pretty sure I crumble right